So it took me a little while, a couple of days, to figure out what exactly I wanted to do in episode 2. I mean, we'd already set out our pretty basic starter home, though I love it. It's a great build and all. We've just already done that, and I don't know exactly where to go on from something so rudimentary and quintessential to, well, Minecraft. So it took me a couple of days, but I actually do think I've landed on something nice. Just over the hillside here, a wonderful little build just in between these two villages. We're going to be doing a windmill. And first off, it's going to be providing me with some actual food so that I don't have to be starving constantly. And second off, it'll play very nicely into the view you get from this starter base because at the end of each Minecraft day, we are greeted with this amazing sunset. And if we can have just a little extra structures slowly that we build up across the course of this world, I really do think that we're going to make a beautiful view that'll eventually encapsulate most of this sunset. All right, but before all that wonderful building that we're going to get started on today, there are a couple things we need to go over. First off being, we need this house to actually have an interior. Otherwise, it's never going to get done and it's going to be hollow and gross and just not very good at all. Uh, and second off, we actually need to expand this pathing I've been doing in between episodes. I actually streamed doing basically all of this except for the little end at the start of the video here on stream. So that was a couple days ago as of this video's release. And yeah, no, it was really fun. And we also added just a bit of rock action here in the front to kind of connect this very rocky, what I want to make a very rocky area. Currently, it's not all too rocky, but we used this kind of staircase area to kind of connect our current house to the rest of the village. So I'm just going to finish up the rest of this pathing here, and then we'll start work on the interior. So we have just finished up the last of our pathing here because we no longer have any mud. And I honestly think we have the great layout that we need, at least for now. I don't think we'll be touching most of the pathing over at this side of the village for much time at all. I think we're definitely going to focus around this area. But now that does leave time for our interior work. And yeah, let's get right to it. All right, so I've gathered a couple of blocks together here, some from going caving again, and some just laying around the chests after building the outside of this build. So, I mean, there's not much else to say. Let's just get right into it. I do think, though, where we need to start is a floor, and we've kind of have built this gradient up. So I'd like to keep it quite dark and not necessarily dingy, but like almost like a rough, dirty feeling in the floor. So if we just get rid of all of this grass real quick. Okay, and now we have plenty of space to fill in some kind of floor. I was thinking something along the lines of tough, but I'm not so sure. Maybe something like a checkerboard pattern, like so. And then maybe fill it in with a more tamed sort of deep slate of the polished variant, potentially. Here, let's have a look. It looks fine here. Let's grab a little bit more. Maybe, what we'll say, like that much. And see how that goes. I mean, I think it's pretty basic, and it doesn't really bring the exact feeling I want, so probably not gonna be doing something like this. Alright, so let's maybe try a different block, or maybe a mixture of blocks. We do have some andesite here, maybe something along the lines of that, but maybe sparsely put in. We could actually also have some almost shading. You could like bring in a bit of the deep slate there, and then sort of finish it off with a few. We'll go maybe deep slate tiles, and maybe just finish it off like that. That's a potential, but again, I feel like it's a little too dark compared to the sides here. So maybe something just a little bit brighter. Oh, and it is nighttime outside, so let's just quickly sleep the night away. All right, and the rain is gone. Oh, wow. Just so much better. Yeah, I definitely don't want these whites to necessarily be a part of the floor, and I don't think it should be this dark either, so we need to find something in the middle. Now, what I do think we can do to maybe allow us to play a little bit more with the floor and maybe have lighter tones in some parts of the floor and darker tones in other is to kind of separate this house into two. So maybe we can have a dividing wall here, and this can be our sort of bedroomy area, whereas over here we can have more of our crafting, smelting, like general setup that you would expect from a normal house. And I don't think we need room for anything like an enchanting table for further down the line. We'll probably create our own separate build for something like that. So let's get back at it with maybe just some normal tough, and maybe kind of intersperse it with some andesite, and maybe we can just attempt to have tough around the more like the more busy areas, let's say. So like, for example, all like the coal dust from the furnace is getting on the ground and is affecting how good the typical andesite would look like. In that case, I think I'm going to require a bit more andesite, so I'll just quickly go grab some more of that. All right, and we're back with what I hope to be enough andesite. I definitely know we have enough tough, but I think this will be fine with the amount of andesite we have. Maybe we can use some stairs and some polished variants, just for parts of the floor, let's say, that aren't being overused. So yeah, let's get rid of some of this. Maybe bring in the andesite a bit more here, and we'll probably replace this with some andesite as well. And then maybe the idea could be that we have a little just gap in the floor here almost. Yeah, and we'll fill that up with more andesite here. Yeah, this is starting to feel a little bit better for sure. And we don't want to use anything like the polished tough variants because, again, this is supposed to look like very rough stuff. And I just think that all of these tough variants are a little overly awkward. I guess we could potentially use the tough slab or stair potentially, but I don't know if that's going to work all too well. Like, maybe there. I actually think that's all right. And then the rest can kind of just be left up to interpretation. We also do need to fix these walls so that it doesn't feel so strange to just have these poking out bits, but that'll be for a little bit later. Next, let's work on I guess the next half of the floor, because I think I'm quite all right with this part. I definitely want this to be some more tough, and maybe over here we'll use a bit more as well, just so that the door, again, like, let's say you're out here doing a lot of gardening, you come in, maybe you don't always wipe your shoes off or something. Yeah, and then you tread some dirt in. And let's say that the cleaning in this place isn't very amazing. So yeah, I think generally this early stage of the floor is quite nice. Here, let's bring a chest into the mix so that we don't have to deal with all so many crazy different blocks right this second. And I think that's just enough clear. Also, let's very temporarily add some form of wall to kind of block off the rest here. Actually, I think we'll block it off like this. And then we'll open things up like so. Yeah. All right. So there, that's going to be sort of our entranceway, our divider, let's say. So here we are with our more warm tones, I want to say. And I definitely want to have the feeling of like a lot of wood around a sort of bed area. Now, I just put the bed away in the chest, so let's go grab that. Uh, where do we want it exactly? Because I believe these, yeah, these are being used quite importantly. So let's just, again, for now, we're just getting the shape of it down. We will make sure that this doesn't look so ugly later. But yeah, I think that's a lot better. That's smooth, that works, and I don't think you're getting exposed to too much of the house here. I also think it's better if we just close all this up. Again, it's really gross right now because it's cobblestone. But this will change. We just want to have a pretty consistent... maybe we raise it a block? Yeah, let's raise it all up here. Yeah, because I just think this makes the window a lot better. And I want this window to be kind of the center of this very nice, well, the nicest part of this house. So yeah, let's just finish this. And we do have a lot of this strip log, but I don't want to like overuse it, you know, and just have one specific kind of work here. So maybe we bring in some like plank action, and it gets maybe a little bit brighter towards the side here, brought in with some more, I don't know, let's say birch planks. Let's see if that does anything. Still a little... like that. Yeah, there's a little bit of contrast here. I wish there was something that could maybe tie in these blocks a little bit more, or maybe just another texture for this. All right, we've gone to the greatest resource in the world, Google, and I realized my mistake. All right, let's have a look. Let's see. This might be too textured on it. Here, let's just fill in the rest of this. Almost. Well, actually, we probably keep this. This would probably be, again, some more. There. Oh, and maybe even we can just change the orientation to slightly. And maybe even this one over here as well. Yeah, this kind of feels a little bit warmer. If we can just get another texture. Yeah, this feels a little bit more busy, and I think that's kind of the vibe we're going for. I also think it'll look even better once there isn't just gross cobblestone all over the place. And there's actual stuff here, which I think will really add to it. So, we could also have like a little. Oh, okay. I got some ideas. All right. Moving on, we gotta get an idea for what to do with this. All right. So I took the liberty of finishing the rest of the interior on my own, just so that we wouldn't be spending forever doing the walls, the roof on the inside, and many other little small things that I think would just take far too long, especially when recording. So I just took my own time, and yeah, here are the results. So we have these kind of metallic-esque roofs, and I like the idea that this house has been like reinvigorated structurally over the years, because again, this is a very old house, and I think that it needs some extra structural support. So over the years, that was given to it. Now, I do want this copper to actually age, so this isn't the copper that I want the house to eventually be having in this main area, at least. I do want it to feel a little bit more old and not something that looks absolutely brand new. I think I want it to be aged at least 2-3 stages so that it looks good, kind of like these trapdoors here, which I want to keep this aging. Another thing here, very simple roof in here, not much, just tried to make it kind of unique and interesting. I don't really know that it's absolutely perfect. I would like to change some parts of it over time, but I do think that for now, this serves the purpose of an interior and isn't really eye destroying. Anyways, and of course we still have the same flooring that we did originally, and we have a couple paintings around just to kind of bring up the mood, I guess. But, I mean, after all is said and done, I think I'm happy with this. I just don't think that it's like 100% done. I think I'll always be like tweaking it just a little bit. And I want to make sure that it kind of fits within the theme of this house, which is kind of a little bit more secluded because it has its own food source and whatnot. So if I think I stick to that theme, I think it'll work relatively well. Anyways, so yeah, that's practically all that there is to the interior. Okay, so now that we have finished our startup projects for this episode, that being the finishing of this path, or at least finishing getting rid of all the mud out of my inventory, and then finishing this interior, which I'm actually really happy with for the most part, now we can actually get to the meat of the episode, which is going to be that windmill I talked about earlier. So I was generally thinking, again, we kind of got to follow along the lines of what looking out of our starter base here is going to feel like, especially with the kind of sunset. So we're going to probably place it just out of the line of sight from this window here. And I was thinking maybe something like that tree right there, because it's just in view whilst not being like too front and center like this village. And of course, we will eventually make this village look a lot better over time. But for now, I think just having those structures in the sidelines, in the corner of your eye, I think that's really going to help make the view so much better. So that's generally the location I was thinking of. Now, I don't exactly know what I'm going to be building it out of. I think I'm just going to have to collect a ton of different resources and see where I can go from there. I do have a couple of blocks to work with, but generally I want it to kind of stand out, and I want it to definitely not look exactly the same as this house. I kind of want this house to be a little like an anomaly almost, or at least have houses in this area be a bit more of an anomaly than what you look out towards. So I'll have to find some blocks for that, but I think the best way to show that is just by doing a bit of a resource collecting montage. So let's go for it. Just while we start collecting our resources here, I wanted to bring attention to something I did say last video. I had asked, basically, what the series should be named. I mean, we are going to hopefully be playing a lot of this, so I want a more concrete name. And a comment actually came up that I really liked, and it basically went along the lines of, again, I'll put this up on screen so you guys can see, but the name constructing community or community construction is what they put forward as a sort of idea. And I actually really like that. I love the idea that we are interacting together as a group, and this is not just my world, but it is our world. So for that reasons, that's exactly why I'm choosing it. And from now on, that's what I'm going to call the episodes. Thank you very much to this commenter, and let's get right back to it. Okay. We are back from the resource collection. I've actually just put it all together in a chest here so that it's not scattered all over the place or super far away back at our actual house. This dirt pillar here is kind of just to kind of gauge the height we want to go for. Now, I think the best way to see how we're going to make this build is mostly just to go back and forth between where we want to be seeing it for the most part, because again, the whole point of this build is, well, first off, food, because I'm like actually out of food, but second off, it's just for this really, really good view. And I think to stand out like slightly more, I think it needs to be 2, maybe 3 blocks taller. Maybe we could go for 4, just go a little over, so the actual blades of the windmill like stand out a bit more, because that's just going to be the height of the main building. Also, quick thing, that looks so much better. I like this weathered variant. Anyways, so yeah, we'll go for a little bit taller, and we'll see how that works out. I don't know if it's going to be perfect or even that good, but we'll gauge it. We'll just see what is needed. But generally, I don't think, I hope at least, we won't need too much more than this. So after grabbing a couple more setting up resources and just making sure that our quote-unquote canvas was good to actually start building, so a couple more setup things, we were actually able to get started, as you can see here. Just a real quick thing before we continue with this time-lapse though, of course the voiceover of this time-lapse that is, I just want to know your thoughts. Like, what do you think you would rather? Earlier in this episode, we did talk and build kind of in a more one-on-one way when we were doing the interior of our first build. And I quite enjoyed doing that, and I thought it was fun, but I also really like making these time lapses, so I was wondering what you guys kind of prefer. If you guys want to say anything in the comments, go ahead. And yeah, I just kind of want to hear from you and see what you prefer, because this is a bit more montagey, whereas the other building that I was doing earlier in the video is actually a bit more than just that. It's more chatting and talking and going through a bit more of my thought process. Anyways, thank you for considering that. That's all well and good. Now let's get to this build. So here it's a bit interesting because we are seeing the build sort of actually spring up out of the ground and see what our actual blocks look like together. And so far I think it's pretty good. I decided to use some stripped and non-stripped versions of the birch, as well as some spruce to kind of bring in some other colors, as well as, of course, the sandstone, which is definitely a major part of this build, but I think that helps keep the colors muted and not super outstanding. Like, I don't want this build to be full of bright reds or really intense blues or even really visible purples, because I want this to be sort of a sideline building that you notice in your peripheral vision that enhances the view from our main base, but isn't something that's so distracting that it brings your view off from the actual sunset that you see that's going on in front of you. Again, the whole idea of kind of what we're building here. So, I mean, I don't really have much else to say. I can't really explain my building as well as some other people might be able to. I'm not the best builder when it comes to kind of expressing my thoughts that way, so I think I'll just let the rest of the time-lapse speak for itself. All right, here we are, and we are done the main build. Now, there are outside aesthetics I want to add, but as for this video, all for today, I do think this build is all we're going to be accomplishing today. Now, I am really excited about it. I haven't seen how it looks from my house, so let's go have a look. Just because, again, we're going for that view. So let's hope that it's actually going to be a sufficient addition, because maybe it just sucks. And also, let's take our offhand away just so we have the most viewing potential. And there. You know what? I think that's pretty good. I think that's really, really good, actually. I think that without all too much effort, that does quite a lot. And I'm really happy with that, actually. Okay, so that is where I am going to be ending it for today. Like I have said, we have done quite a lot. That builds and many other more minor projects. And that is actually a lot, especially when you're considering how I'm not really trying to do an awful lot each episode. I'm trying to have it be a bit more laid back and not as intense so videos can come out more often and whatnot. So, thank you very, very much for watching this episode. I think next episode we're going to work on some gear upgrades because I think we're really starting to get held back by the current gear we're using. And yeah, I think that's all. So, as we watch this sunset, I would like to say thank you again very, very much for watching and have a nice rest of your evening, day, week, whatever. And I'll see you guys all in the next one.